Please take care of the loan repayments. Okay? These words from Adam caught me off guard in the middle of work. My heart hammered in alarm as I opened his letter. Hurriedly contacting him, I barely had time to start a conversation before Adam began to pour out his news with unexpected calmness. "I'm sorry," he said, "but I've fallen in love with someone else, and I've decided to start a new life with her." He was even planning to take out a loan for a luxury car, which, to my horror, was in my name. Attempts to stop him were futile. My husband cut the conversation short, and soon his phone stopped answering my calls. Overnight, Adam disappeared, taking his mistress with him and leaving me with an exorbitant. I, Veronica, the mother of our 10-year-old son, couldn't imagine finding myself in such an unfair situation. Crushed, I stood amidst broken plans, lost in a chaos of thought. I'm 35, and just as old as my husband, Adam. We are a trio, me, our son George, and him. George, who from an early age has shown remarkable intelligence, has always amazed me. He would read articles on the computer and discuss them with me enthusiastically, despite my confusion about complex topics. Unlike my son, Adam was fickle, never holding down a job for long. I, working full-time, worried about our future. But in those days, Adam seemed to have found stability, holding the same job for 3 years with a reliable income. He started talking about creating family memories, and we decided to invest in buying a $35,000 RV. When Adam didn't pass the financial test, I took out a loan for the RV in my name. And on the day our dream was to be delivered, I received a shocking email from him. "You will so kindly take delivery of the camper," it said, "and since the loan is in your name, you will handle the repayment." Not realizing what was going on, I immediately called Adam. "This letter, what do you mean?" I asked, barely containing my excitement at work. "I've fallen in love with someone else." His words hit like thunder. "Dating her, and it got serious." I couldn't tell if he was being serious. But how? My thoughts were getting confused. It was supposed to be just a gamble, but now we're serious. And yes, I prepared divorce papers after our last argument. He continued, and suddenly the conversation broke off. His silence was deafening beyond words. In that moment, I realized the betrayal was real, and it was crushing. No matter how hard I tried, Adam never returned my calls again. Veronica was shocked. Could this have happened to me? I thought as I drove home, where the divorce papers were no longer in the drawer, so I was left alone with a $35,000 debt on the RV. My attempts to contact Adam through emails and phone calls went unanswered. After dinner, George, noticing my anxiety, cautiously approached me. "Mom, are you okay? You've been eating so little lately." "Yes, I'm fine," I replied. But his gaze was too penetrating. "When people lie, they look to the right. You know lying is bad, don't you? Dad's been gone for 3 days. Did you two fight?" His bluntness caught me off guard, and I felt I couldn't hide the truth any longer. "Aren't you sad?" he asked when I told him everything. "No," George said, as if he had already accepted the inevitable. My heart clenched, seeing his steadfastness, and I apologized to him in my thought, trying to push the heavy thoughts away. I could still feel my health beginning to betray me under the weight of recent events. That day's workout at work was proving to be overwhelming for me. "I'm sorry, I can't. I need a break," I exhaled with difficulty as I felt myself squatting down. My coworkers surrounded me worriedly, but I passed out before I could respond. When I woke up, I saw the white ceiling of the hospital room and realized that I had fainted. "I feel so sorry for myself," I thought to myself, Veronica, lying in the hospital bed, indulging in reflection. "It's probably from emotional stress." I decided, looking at the IV in my hand. Tears rolled down my cheeks unhindered as George burst into the room, his face expressing fear. "Mom, what happened? Is it serious? Aren't you going to die?" He blurted out. "Of course not, my darling. I'll always be with you," I comforted him, trying to hide my worry. "The school teacher said you were taken to the hospital," he continued, his eyes full of worry. I was so scared. George had always been more mature than his years, but he was only 10. I saw a determination in his eyes that inspired me to fight for our future, even though the diagnosis was more serious than I expected. "We need surgery, and the sooner the better," the doctor insisted. Following his advice, I went through with the surgery. A month after Adam left us, I finally returned home. A letter was waiting in my mailbox demanding payment on my car loan. It was supposed to be deducted automatically. I wondered, Veronica, checking my account balance. But instead of the expected $20,000, there was a measly $3.90 left in the account. I wanted to demand a refund, but he was out of reach. Without the van, I was at a dead end. I couldn't sell it to pay off the debt. After Adam left, everything went downhill, and my mood sank even lower. Seeing that I was saddened by the string of failures, George put his hand on my forehead. "You look pale. Are you feeling ill again? You don't seem to have a fever, though." "Physically, I'm fine. But you see, your father took not only the car, but all the money we were saving. I can't work yet because of my physical condition. And now we have no money. I'm at a loss." "I see. Then I'll deliver newspapers and search the internet to see if there are any jobs," George said in an adult voice. Emboldened by my 10-year-old son, I told myself that now was not the time to get discouraged. "I'm sorry to bother you. I can't afford to be weak. I will change my way of thinking and do my best." Smiling at him, George also smiled back, and then said something unexpected. "Let's plan on getting the car back from your father. The RV is titled in your name, right?" "Yes, but what are we going to do with it?" "Maybe we can." I started, but George suggested an idea I couldn't even imagine. I never thought such an idea could exist. Besides, I have no idea where your father— "Then let's check my cell phone," George suggested. "A month ago, when we went camping as a family, I got lost, remember? Then you bought me a baby phone and installed an app on it that both Adam and you had access to. With that app, I can see where Dad is in real time, and he moves around a lot." "Really?" I wondered. But what if we find him and he just says something vague and runs away again? While I pondered, George smiled and made an intriguing suggestion. "Don't worry, I've already taken precautions," he said, and I looked at him in amazement. "What did you just say?" Veronica was amazed that her son George, acting on his own, was able to take steps to address their situation while she was in the hospital. Her amazement and admiration for a 10-year-old boy who appeared to be as smart as he was independent was boundless. "Okay, let's teach the father who betrayed us a lesson," she said, and together they began to prepare for the crucial step. 3 days later, the phone rang. It was Adam, who seemed to be in trouble and asking for help, claiming that the police were asking him questions about Veronica. Adam's words hinted that he might be summoned to the police station. "Help me," he pleaded. Wasting no time, Veronica and George went to the wooded area where Adam was located. The police were actually questioning him near his car. Veronica intervened, convincing the police to give them time to talk in private, and Adam, sensing the stares of those around him, asked them to get into the car. Inside the car was Adam's mistress, but that no longer mattered to Veronica. "Sorry about that. Thank you for coming over. But why did the police suddenly show up at my house?" "I don't understand," Adam began, confused. "It's because I filed a missing persons report on the van," Veronica replied. Adam was shocked. What? Why would you do that? It's obvious, isn't it? My car was stolen. He tried to justify himself, not realizing that his actions could be seen as criminal. You filed for divorce, remember? I forgot. So we're strangers now, and you're driving someone else's car without permission. Veronica reminded him of the reality of their relationship. Now that Adam had filed for divorce, they were legally strangers to each other, and using the car without her permission could be considered theft. That moment was the breaking point, and Veronica used it to get justice and protect her rights and the rights and future of her son. George, indeed, showed amazing insight and resourcefulness in using the GPS app to track Adam's whereabouts. This moment was pivotal in resolving their situation. It's a crime. Veronica emphasized the seriousness of the situation. Adam, trying to justify himself, claimed that he hadn't stolen the car, but had simply borrowed it for a while. But Veronica was adamant, well, I want to use my car now, so could you please give it back? When Adam reluctantly returned the keys, it was confirmation that the RV did indeed belong to Veronica. George, not intimidated by the presence of Adam's mistress, Molly, asked his father a direct question about the reasons for his actions. Molly, trying to insert her own 5 cents, was quickly cut off by George, who demanded an answer from her father. Pressured by the threat of calling the police, Adam finally admitted that he had been dating Molly and had decided to start a new life with her after learning that she was pregnant. Adam also explained that he had taken the RV because he had quit his job and wanted to sell it, but instead decided to use it to travel with Molly. George, using location information obtained through GPS, was able to learn about Adam's movements and his use of the RV. This dialogue reveals not only Adam's betrayal, but also his indiscretion in forgetting that his location could be tracked. Veronica and George, working together, were able to use this information to their advantage to get justice. And Veronica marveled at her son George's ability to think so strategically and maturely. Her son, despite his young age, showed an ability to act decisively and deliberately, which was in contrast to Adam's irresponsibility and betrayal. In this contrast between the wisdom of a child and the immaturity of an adult, Veronica found new strength and determination. When Veronica demanded the return of the money Adam had withdrawn from her account, she was confronted with his denials. Adam claimed that the money belonged to him since Veronica had no part in its accumulation. Veronica, however, was confident in her actions and was willing to go all the way to get justice, including adding information about the theft of the money to the statement. George, for his part, was ready to call the police immediately using an app on his phone. The situation escalated when Molly, while trying to get out of the van, was confronted by her parents who were furious at her action. In this turn of events, Veronica and George were faced with the possibility of not only recovering the stolen money and car, but also holding Adam accountable for his actions. Molly's parents obviously also had their grievances and were willing to support Veronica in her quest for justice. In this tense scene full of revelations and emotions, the situation escalated to the extreme. George, using his skills and wits, contacted Molly's parents to witness the unfolding events. He told them the whole story, including Adam's infidelity and the consequences for his own family. When Molly's parents confronted their daughter, the situation spiraled out of control. Molly, trying to justify herself, was forced to face the consequences of her actions. During the conversation, it was revealed that Molly's gestational age did not match the time she began her relationship with Adam, indicating that the child was not Adam's. Molly admitted that she had been deceiving Adam, and the reality of her deception became apparent to everyone. Molly's parents, Adam and Veronica, Each felt the betrayal and disappointment in their own way. For Veronica, it was further confirmation that divorcing Adam was the right decision. She faced betrayal not only in her personal relationship, but also in her financial relationship, and now she had to make justice and take care of her future and her son's future. This story is a vivid example of how lies and deceit can destroy relationships and trust, and how important it is to be honest and responsible in your actions. Veronica, watching the situation, saw Adam and Molly embroiled in a heated argument, the consequences of which were already inevitable. She and George, leaving them to sort out their chaos, concentrated on restoring order and justice. They contacted the police to give a full explanation of what was happening. When the police arrived, the wooded park lit up with the red lights of police car headlights, and the situation began to resemble a scene from a movie. Adam, realizing the seriousness of his situation, began to beg for mercy, promising to change and not to lie anymore. However, Veronica was adamant that Adam had to take responsibility for his actions and atone for his sins, even if it meant arrest. Veronica, supported by her son, stood firm, demanding the return of the stolen funds and alimony for George. She also pointed out Molly's role in what was going on, reminding her that Molly was not just an observer, but an accessory to the theft, which could have legal consequences. Molly, realizing the seriousness of her situation, sought help from her parents, but they rejected her, not wanting to be associated with a daughter who causes trouble for others. As a result, both Adam and Molly were taken away in a police car, leaving Veronica and George with a deep sense of satisfaction that justice had been. This story is a shining example of the importance of fighting for the truth and not letting deceit and injustice dominate one's life. Veronica and George have shown that even in the most difficult circumstances, it is possible to find a way out and pursue the truth, even if it takes great courage and determination. Veronica was able to provide financial stability and fair restitution after everything that happened to her family. After receiving $20,000 in compensation from Adam and Molly, she also established regular child support for George, allowing her to secure a stable future for herself and her son. In addition to financial restitution, Veronica demonstrated strength and independence by finding Adam a job and arranging to have his child support payments and alimony automatically transferred to her account, minimizing the risk of non-payment. Selling the RV and paying off the car loan also helped Veronica close this unpleasant past chapter and move on. Veronica's improved health and her renewed energy at work speak to her inner strength and drive to recover from her difficult ordeal. George, who showed extraordinary maturity and support during the crisis, continues to be a pillar of support for his mom, helping her in her daily life. Veronica wants to keep moving forward despite the obstacles and is committed to ensuring that George is able to do the things he enjoys and not give up in the face of adversity.